Hey guys, it's Kirsten. So I'm trying to rebrand my channel a little bit. I don't want this video to be super duper long, but kind of like a little life update, and I might take down like some of my other videos. Some of them are fun and I really still enjoy having them up, but I feel like they're very more of like my college era, and I have recently graduated from Liberty and I am starting my first teaching job, which I'm very, very excited about. But I want to turn this channel. I've been watching a lot of like book videos and I've been getting a lot into reading lately. And I also want to put some teacher content out here possibly. So this channel is going to more turn into a like book channel and teacher videos and like all of the things. So I don't have a ton of subscribers, but I know that a lot of the people that subscribed to me at the time that I was posting some of my videos subscribed to me because I was posting Liberty related and college related content. So I just wanted to put this disclaimer at the beginning of the video that my content will be changing. But without further ado, let's get right on into the video. So this video today is going to be all the books that I've read in 2022, because it is now the beginning of 2023, as you guys know. So I'm uploading this a little bit later because I was deciding if I wanted to continue this channel and post more videos, but this is the first video that I wanted to do if I decided to do this. So I just recently got into reading again. I started like more seriously reading in May. And another thing to note about this is some of the books, but I'll just kind of like put a picture up in the corner so we can see them, is I borrowed copies from my sister or I left the copies at home. And so that's why I don't have all the copies. And so also, like I mentioned before, these are just the books that I read from May until December. So, and also I was student teaching during this time, so something about this is that I read a lot of the books in the summer. I literally only read one book in, what is it called? I read one book in the fall, and then very quickly at the end of the year, I finished up a lot of them in December when I went back to my parents' house when I was done with my student teaching. So now I'm going to show you the pile of my books, and then we'll debrief and I'll just give a quick rating and then move on. This video is not going to be super long, but I kind of just wanted to intro and kind of just change my vision for this channel a little bit. Okay, so first I'm going to go through the books that I don't have a physical copy of so that I don't forget to do them. So my most recent one was November 9th. I'm going to put it up here, by Colleen Hoover. And the reason that I don't have this book is because my mom had gotten this book for me, and then I like flew through it. This is the only book that I actually read during student teaching, and I read it in like a weekend. It was a weekend where I didn't have a lot of homework, and I just was like, I'm just gonna finish this book. So I'm pretty sure I was sick because I got sick all the time during student teaching. And Colleen Hoover, if you haven't read her, you can read her books super fast. A lot of people have strong opinions about her because she's blown up like on TikTok and a bunch of different other things, but the way that she writes the chapters all end in cliffhangers, so you can kind of just like fly through the story. And so I read it really fast, and then I gave it to my sister. She flew through it in like a day, and then I gave it to my mom, who isn't a huge reader, and my mom is like 3/4 of the way through the book, and she just started it yesterday, which is crazy. So we all love it, and it's not what I expected at all. It is kind of like a romance, but without giving anything away, like it's also kind of the trope where the day doesn't exactly, I don't know how to describe it. The day doesn't like repeat, but it almost like gives that feeling because they're meeting up every single November 9th, if that makes sense. But like different things happen. But I read a book, I don't remember what it's called, but then they made a movie about it, and this girl keeps like repeating her day. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but there's like some more mature topics in it and everything. Because it did have that, I am going to give it like 4.5 stars, but it was a really good read, and I did read it really quickly. Okay, so then the next book that I don't have a physical copy of, this is a book that I was borrowing from my sister, is Outdated by Johnathan Pokluda. And if you don't know, he is the pastor at Harris Creek Baptist Church, and he also has a podcast, which I love, and it's called Becoming Something, and it's for Christians that are in like their 20s and 30s, so like just young adults and college students, and he gives relationship advice and just advice on like how to better follow Jesus and how to like encourage you in your faith and just like biblical advice and advice for reading the Bible. They cover like politics, money, and like all the hard topics that like a lot of people don't want to talk about, and just kind of like growing up and transitioning and like how we're called to live our lives as Christians. So really enjoyed that book because Outdated specifically focuses on dating and how dating has changed over the years. And I don't even think that dating is the right word for this story, because he doesn't really necessarily agree with dating. I don't really know how to describe it. You have to read the book to, you know, get more details into that. But this is more like, it was more like an advice book in Christian dating and just kind of like Christian life in general. But I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of something like different, because I have been, a lot of these are like romance reads. And so it was just something different to like change up my reading. And I read this at the beginning of the summer in May on the beach and at the pool. So I read this one pretty quickly as well. And then the next book, which I don't have a physical copy of, but I do have the study plan, keeping along with like the Christian book theme, is Gentle and Lowly. This is it's super thin because this is the study guide, which I do recommend getting. I did this in a Bible study with like a group of girls, but then we would read like 1 or 2 chapters of the book, and then we discuss the study guide questions together. It is by Dane, Ouland, and he is a pastor at a church in Michigan, I believe. But he uses a lot of, it's so interesting because I usually, when I read the Bible, I read super duper fast and I feel like I miss a lot of things. And this book really taught me to like meditate on one verse, and that's what the Puritans did. They wrote like big books and did long sermons on just one verse, which is just crazy to me. So he references the Puritans a lot, and I'm also a big history person, so I thought that was really cool and neat. And it just shows you like the heart of God in a whole different way that I like never saw it before, and how kind of like gentle and lowly the heart of God is. And so I highly recommend this book for like anyone at any age. And it was a little bit to dissect, and it really makes you think, especially the study guide and the questions are super duper deep in thought, and sometimes I just needed like a moment to like rest and process the questions. And it's fun to tackle the questions with like a group of friends, so I highly recommend doing that book in a Bible study, because I don't know if I would have been able to process the questions as deeply if I weren't bouncing them off of other people. So that's a great book to do in a Bible study, or like a book club setting. Okay, so the next book, I'm kind of doing these in chronological order, I just realized, which is kind of fun. I read is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So when I was in middle school and high school, I loved John Green, and I obviously read Fault in Our Stars, and I don't think I ever read Paper Towns, but I watched the movie. But I really wanted to read Turtles All the Way Down, so my friend gave me this copy, and I was super excited to try it. And it is kind of like young adult, but it does have like some profanity. Oh my goodness, I forgot to rate Outdated and Gentle and Lowly. I would give them both 5 stars. But it's kind of like a different rating, because obviously these are like books and those are more like nonfiction, advice, Christian, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'll continue. I'm kind of all over the place if you haven't noticed already. Very sorry about that. But Turtles All the Way Down is a young adult, and it follows this boy and girl, and it has like some light touches of romance, but there's also kind of some like mystery in there, and I don't really want to give anything away. And I think they also might be making a movie about it, which is interesting. But I thought that it was super fun. They start out at like a pretty young age, and then it follows them, I think, because it kind of flashes back, and it follows them at the age of 16 mainly, and then also at the age of 11, I believe. But the main girl who's telling this story, she has ADHD, or good gracious. But basically, back to this book deals with the main character that has OCD, and it's her like spiral thought pattern, so that's why the front book has this cover and like turtles all the way down, and that's how she kind of describes her thought patterns. And you can just see her, and like she obsesses over a thought, and she like the thought kind of like grows and spirals. So as you're reading it, it's kind of confusing at first, but once you follow it, it's really cool, and you can see her thought patterns. So I would give this book like 4 stars, because it was kind of hard to follow is why I got 4 stars, but I also think I understand, and I thought it was cool of why it did that. So, and it was John Green, so I got to reminisce on that, and obviously I love John Green. readjusting the next book, and this is my lowest rated book. So I know a lot of people, like, she's like up and coming and stuff. It's by Tessa Bailey. And the book that is more popular, that I've seen a lot more at Barnes & Nobles than this book, that is actually the sequel to this book, is Hook, Line, and Sinker, and that's the sequel. But the first one, it's called It Happened One Summer, and this is about Piper and this guy, and the sequel is about her sister. I forget what her sister's name is. I literally just finished this, but it kind of took me a little bit to get through it, because I started it in the summer, and then I just had to, like, randomly finish the last chapter, because I just could not bring myself to finish this. It's not for everyone, but it was too cheesy for me, and it honestly, it was just too much. I don't really, why I don't like some of Colleen Hoover's books is because I just think they're a little too graphic. They're a little too much for me. So, and that was the same thing with this book, so to each their own, but I would only give this book like 2 stars. The next one that I read was It Ends With Us, and this is probably Colleen Hoover's most popular book, and I flew through this book, like I finished it in a day. Again, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I felt like she dealt with the material very, like, in a words. I thought like she dealt with this material in a really great way, and I loved like how she, like the twists and turns that this book took. Like I wasn't even expecting, and my friend almost spoiled it for me, so I won't tell you what my friend told me. But even with what the little bit that my friend told me, I still, she still didn't actually spoil it for me, because the twist was just like so shocking to me, and just to read from the main character's perspective was really cool, and all the things that she goes through, and it just helps you like understand things a little bit better. And this one I also really enjoyed, because the main characters in a lot of the other books that I read, like It Happens in Summer, she's probably a similar age to me, but again, I just couldn't really connect with that story. But I connected with the main character in this book a little bit more, because she was closer to my age. The main character is like in her early 20s and stuff, and so it wasn't like a YA. And it also, seemingly, it has like a couple scenes, but nothing too major. And so that's why I gave this one 4 stars, and I was also able to connect better. And then I also picked up the sequel right after, which is It Starts With Us, which I'm not going to talk a ton about this one either, because it just would give away the other one if I even said anything this is about. I mean, I guess you can look it up because it's a very popular book, but this was a lot more lighthearted than It Ends With Us. And so my rating, I feel like my rating scale is kind of hard. Like, I don't know. I did really enjoy both of these books. I loved them, but I only gave this one 3 stars just because it's a little bit more lighthearted, and she like says in her foreword, which I totally understand, she's trying to give a more lighthearted read and what the characters deserve, which I do think that's what they deserved, but I did really enjoy the twists and turns more of the first one, It Ends With Us. And I just felt like It Starts With Us, obviously it was a continuation of the story, but just some parts it felt like things were kind of like forced in and trying to really like tie their story up into like a nice little bow. But I still did really enjoy it, don't get me wrong. And then I did realize I forgot to include, and I don't have this book because I left it at home, my favorite book that I read, I'll put that right here, is Redeeming Love by Francie Rivers. And a lot of people probably are going to have some controversial opinions on this book solely because of the movie, but it did just release a movie back in the beginning of 2022, and I do enjoy the movie, but I like the book a lot more, and I read the book because the movie got such like mixed reviews and kind of got slaughtered, but I wanted to read the book to like get a more feel for it and everything. But it's basically the story of Hosea, kind of like retold as a Western in the 1850s gold rush. But I personally love anything set in the 1800s because I love historical romances. I love especially like farm and like Amish reads, and it's set on a farm because the main character is a farmer who's like portraying Hosea, and he rescues this girl who's like a prostitute in the gold rush town, and you just kind of see her and like her heart and her journey with him, but how he's so like dedicated to the Lord, and like his love for her is kind of like supposed to represent God's love for us in a way. I just thought that it was amazing and like a great way to capture that, and it really spoke to me. There's like some scenes in the movie that people are like, you can't classify it as a Christian movie if it has this, which I totally understand, and that's why I enjoy the book a lot better, and it really portrays that and kind of like gets to what she was actually trying to portray and like his heart and everything. So I did enjoy the book a lot better, but I still think that it's a great movie if you can actually understand what the movie's trying to portray, but it is a very difficult thing to portray. So, with all that said, those were all my reads of 2022. I hope that you enjoyed this and it wasn't too all over the place for you. I'm going to try to edit a couple things out because I know I am very all over the place. And stay tuned for some of my other videos because I've already been doing a lot of reading in 2023.